It is an honor to present Season 3 of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority's iconic web series, Conversations, where we focus on the significant contributions of some of our most distinguished members, those women who, with vision, determination, and grit in many cases, have made extraordinary contributions not only to the sorority, but to their careers and to mankind in general. Alpha Kappa Alpha's Conversations is an extension of our historic Heritage Series, which was introduced over 50 years ago. And so we're very pleased to have this third season where we will focus on some women who have made their mark not only in the sorority, but as mentioned earlier, on all mankind. So in the words of our legendary soror, Dr. Maya Angelou, we say to you, we still like air, rise. That is the story of Conversations. Welcome again to Season 3. Sheinelle, welcome to Conversations. It's a pleasure to have you here.
This is an honor for me, no question about it.
Thank you. Now, you were initiated into Alpha Kappa Alpha as an undergraduate.
Yes.
In the Central Region. Would you care to just share a little bit with our Conversations sorors about what that experience was like?
It was fall 1997 at Northwestern University, Gamma Chi chapter. And listen, I'll just start right off. My grandmother is a soror. You know, my mother is a soror. Most of the women in my family are Alpha Kappa Alpha women. There is a picture of me. I wish I could find it for you. I might have been maybe a few months old and they put my pinky like this, you know, so there was one of those things where when I hit that campus at Northwestern University, you immediately seek out the women, you know, and you wonder who's an AKA. It's one of those things I've always wanted to do. And I remember seeing them on campus and I just thought they were perfect. No one is perfect, but in my mind, they were perfect. And they were friendly and loving and smart. It was just like, you know what, I want to be a part of that number. And it was one of the best things, obviously, decisions I ever made. My freshman year at Northwestern was a good year, but then my sophomore year, everything changed. I gained so many sisters.
You're a legacy.
Yes.
In the sorority, and yes, so your mother and your grandmother?
Mother and grandmother.
Would you share a little bit about what chapter they're in?
So they are both in Beta Kappa Omega chapter in Wichita, Kansas. My mother attended Howard University. I used to wear her little jackets and stuff like that at Northwestern University. And my grandmother attended and joined in Wichita, Kansas at Wichita State University. So, and I have pictures of my grandmother when she first joined. So Alpha Kappa Alpha runs through my veins.
In terms of professionally, you're a very successful anchor on the Today Show. And I'd like to just share with our sorority sisters and others that you started out in a smaller market, I believe it was Springfield. And then from there to Tulsa, then to Philadelphia, and now you're in New York as one of the anchors on the Today Show.
You know, I anchor right now officially on the weekends on the Today Show, and then I fill in during the week. So people see me during the week a lot, and they see, you know, Matt Lauer, or they see Savannah, and they see me all over the place, and they think, oh my gosh, you just made it. But the truth is, and I'm sure most people understand that, it certainly didn't happen overnight. My first job, when I landed, it was surreal. I was a one-man band, that's what they call us. So we have our own camera, we do all the editing, you do everything in Springfield, Illinois. I did that for a couple of years for a morning show. And then I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and anchored the weekend show, and then anchored the 5 o'clock news for about 3 years. And then I jumped to Philadelphia. I was a reporter. I did 7 live shots a morning for the morning news program, the Fox station in Philadelphia. After about a year, they put me on the desk. And then I anchored morning news in Philly for almost 9 years.
What other advice would you give to our young sorors who are seeking opportunities in broadcast or in journalism?
I think one, it's important to be curious and to ask questions. It's not always about you, right? And what you want to do and what you want to say. And, you know, I meet so many people who want to be on entertainment, you know, do entertainment television, and they just want to be on TV. And those people are weeded out very quickly. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of writing, there's a lot of reading, there's a lot of preparing. And I think if you just have a curious mind, a curious heart, then you're always asking questions, and people can tell that you are genuine when you're speaking with them. Also, when I was an intern at BET, I remember there was a guy who would say, ask for what you want, take what you get, use what you get to get what you want. And I thought, oh, okay. And I remember typing it out and folding it on a printer, folding it and putting it in my little jury box. And I looked at that every morning for years. And that's essentially what I've done. And that's what I think helps. You know, you're not always going to get what you want, but you use that, take the best you can out of whatever experience you can out of whatever you're given, and keep on climbing.
Do you feel like your experiences have given you a unique perspective?
Experiences growing up?
Or experiences as a journalist and a woman of color?
Absolutely, in so many ways, and it continues to change. You know, I'm new at the Today Show at the network level, and you know, everybody laughs. It's not for the faint of heart, that is for sure. But you look around and there aren't a lot of us, but we're there, we're in the building. And so there are times where if I get nervous, or even before I got to the Today Show, you know, sometimes you have to remember who you are, whose you are. The women that come before me, you know, I think of my grandmother and my mother. They're just beautiful, fly women. And I say, you know what, I am here. I can do this. And there are girls, when I was in Philadelphia, you know, black girls who would write me a letter. You know, oh, you're wearing green this morning. I'm going to put on green today. Or, you know, just something simple like that. But they can turn on the news and see someone who looks like them. And that is priceless for me, because I didn't have that for years.
You mentioned earlier your mother and grandmother are members of the sorority. And I happen to know that the chapter they're in is one of our older chapters of the sorority, one of our more historic chapters. As a young woman growing up in that environment, how do you think that shaped your experience even today in terms of who you are?
I think the power of sisterhood, the power of having confidence. Again, I said it earlier, the power of knowing who you are, whose you are, so that when you grow up with so many powerful women, they become, you know, my grandmothers and my mother's sorors became my aunties, and my cousins and their kids became like my best friends that I still stay in contact with. I mean, we would go to regional conferences and mom was doing one thing and I was running around doing the other things. I mean, you grow up, you know, in that world. I never will forget when, you know, my grandmother's a choir director, right? So when they sing the "Through the Years as We Struggle," she likes, especially when they get to the Alpha Kappa Alpha, serious harmony, right? So I remember when I was at Northwestern and we started to learn the song in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm learning the song that I know already, you know? So like I said, it runs through me and it gives me strength. Even now, I remember when I started at the Today Show and I was so nervous before I anchored my first newscast. I remember I closed my door, I cranked up a little Beyonce, I'll be honest. And then I had pictures of my mom, my grandmother, and I'm looking at them on my phone. And you just think of all those women who were rooting for me and who were there with me in Wichita when I was interning at that school access station. Those women, even though I don't see them, they give me strength. They give me confidence that when you give the news, you're authoritative, you're confident. It's what you have to be. You fake it till you make it, and then eventually, no, this is where I belong.
You're also a mother of three. Talk to us a little bit about balance, and how do you balance it?
It's a lot. I have 4-year-old twins and a 7-year-old. When they were born, I was anchoring local news in Philadelphia, and there were times where, you know, listen, I don't know how you can edit it if you want, but, you know, I'm nursing my kids. I would go in the bathroom during commercial breaks, pumping them, doing all these things. I'm coming back on the air. I'm, you know, leaving to go take the kids to, you know, whatever lesson they were having to do, or parent-teacher conference, and then coming back to tape something. You know, during the show, I would have my cell phone down here, and my husband saying, you know, did you pack Kyan's lunch today? You know what I mean? I'm on the set talking about breaking news, and I'm down here. Yeah, look in the cabinet. I think there's some grapes left. Or, you know, look in the fridge. There's some grapes. I mean, we're all juggling all the time. But it's one of those things where I wouldn't trade it for the world. I will say I slowed down a little bit when I left Philadelphia, because I felt like, you know, I was at work every day at 3:30. In the morning. So I was going to bed every day at 8 o'clock. So I was going to bed with my kids. And I felt like towards the end of my time at Philly that, you know, I was waking up everybody else's kids, but I was leaving when the moon was high, you know, and then, you know, my kids would see me on TV and then they would turn to Sesame Street, but mommy wasn't there in the mornings, and I was there to pick them up from school, which is important to me. So it's a constant juggle of trying to be, you can't be everything to everybody at once, and I think we know that. But I'm certainly doing my best to be the mother that I can be. You know, listen, a lot of women choose not to work, and that's okay too, but this has been my dream since I was in 5th grade. And I like the fact that they can see mommy living her dream.
Talk to us about what does it mean to you, Sheinelle, to be fearless?
That's a good question. And it's hard, and it gets harder, because I will say this, having children changed it a little bit for me, because before, you can be as fearless as you want, and you really don't have anything to lose if you think about it. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna make a living somehow, some way. You know, God gave you a brain. You're gonna be okay. But when you have children, and I have 3 of them, it's like my heart is on the outside of my body in 3 different places. And so when you're working, what drives me now is, frankly, them, you know, and wanting to be my best for them and for them to see, look at mommy and you know, and living her dreams. So for me, that's what gives me strength in moments where I feel fear. That and just good old-fashioned prayer. I mean, there's just nothing more than that. There are times where, you know, I'll call my grandmother and she'll give me some words of wisdom. I just called her a couple of days ago and I said, you know, I'm doing this show and I'm doing that show. And sometimes I feel like I'm on MSNBC today and I'm on Today's Show tomorrow. And, you know, where am I? And Grandma said, bloom where you're planted, honey. You know, and so I hear that and I'm like, okay, I can talk to her for 2 minutes and that's enough. And other times I can't talk to anybody. I literally have to go in my room, close the door, crank on some CC Winans or something like that and just meditate and just pray. I was looking at something the other day, it was on Instagram, and somebody said, prayer is where you talk to God, meditation is when you listen. I have to do both of those things sometimes. And when things are crazy, and when I feel like I live in Harlem, I live in New York City, it's a lot. You know, you've got 3 kids, and I've got at 2 different schools. There's tuition, there's uniforms, there's volunteering, there's so much going on, right? Sometimes I just have to push it all away, just take it in and say, Lord, order my steps. Ultimately, help me, you know, I feel like I'm living my purpose. Just help me live my purpose. Because ultimately, you know, I used to say God has bigger dreams for you than you can dream for yourself. That has officially happened for me. I am no longer in control. So I play that song, I give myself away, and I'm not kidding you. There are times where I'll go for a run or I'll go for a power walk and I crank that up and I just have to let go because I realize when I get stressed or when I get fearful, it's because I'm trying to control everything. When I kind of let go and let God, I'll be honest with you, it just gets a lot easier.
Right. Great. Well, thank you so much, Sarah Sheinelle.
Thank you, Madam President.
We appreciate you so much. We look forward to seeing you in your continued role on the Today Show. And again, thank you for coming and being a part of Conversations.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.